This is the curse of the mermaids that Betty told me about.
We put constant darkness in Outer Mukfa and constant lightness in Mukfa. Oh, we were so mad.
Great, we got the lock. Let's open it. Who the hell is that?
Hi, I'm Dan, local hero, adventurer, and just a regular fella. And you guys?
What are you doing here?
I've come for Miss Miriam's locket. Have you met her? Nice lady, about so tall, long hair. So, these are the horrible caves, huh? Not so horrible after all. Nice place to visit. You guys could have postcards, bumper stickers.
Wise guy, huh?
About that locket. You guys find a locket, seashell-shaped item?
We got it. You want it? Just try to get it.
You'll never conquer me. I have a DA. Ah, where's my DA?
Gotcha.
How will it end?
The curse? Until the gold of the seashell meets the gold of the glass.
What does that mean?
That's very simple. A princess from Outer Mukfa must fall in love with a king from Mukfa. True love.
I don't get it.
It's you, darling. Remember your locket? The seashell? It's got the bottle cap inside.
The bottle cap King Wendell was sweeping for?
Yes, your dear sweet mother, Queen Whatever, placed the locket around your lovely neck when she left you here.
My mother, Queen Whatever?
Of Outer Mukfa, you see?
And the gold of the glass?
Wendell's golden bottle.
Why didn't you tell me this before?
Well, we had to make sure it was true love.
Oh, it is. It is. But Mr. Feist's friends, they have the locket. Oh! Wow, I could start a Royal Academy of Tap Dancing. Oh!
Here she comes, boss. Let's nab her and call the king. King, we got Miss Miriam here. We'll trade you for her. You get the girl when we get the golden bottle. Got it? 229 North Horrible Caves. That's right. See you soon. Stop!
What am I doing here? I'm supposed to be giving the DA to Dan. Dan!
Thank you, Betty. Now that I have my DA, there's no mountain too high, no river too deep, no ocean too wide, no need for more sleep. Onward!
At last, we have the bottle and the bottle cap. Destroy them and power is ours. Today, Mukfa. Tomorrow, the world. We are evil.
Can I do it now?
Yes, Mermaid Sylvia, do it.
I have her heart, she loves me too.
He loves me so, no more boo-boo.
Like bottle and cap, we'll stick like glue. We're on the road to night and day. Okay!
With my love, I'm true and brave.
For pot, pot caress, this news we say.
It's our romance, about which we rave.
We're on the road to night and day. Hooray!
Is this the part where everyone lives happily ever after forever?
Yes, of course. Everyone. Forever. Maybe.
Everybody's nice here.
We boast.
Everybody eats here.
Pork roast.
We all flirt here.
Gladly,
We're all in love here.
gladly.
Everybody's happy here.
You bet.
There's no curse here.
Sunset.
Now we have dark here.
Good night.
Now we can dream here.
This is the end. Good night.
Mr. Markman, did you ever have imaginary friends?
No, actually not. Not really. No, I never. You mean when I was a youngster?
Mm-hmm.
No, not really. I had real friends. I had a lot of real friends.
Well, that's comforting. But so, how did you come up with ideas for characters? Were they prototyped after TV or
Radio. Like listening to Fred Allen, and he would have his imaginary Allen's Alley, and Mrs. Newspan and Senator Clarence Horn and Titus Moody, and they were imaginary to the radio. And I guess they weren't ever my friends, but I guess I always really loved hearing them every Sunday night, and I was attached to them. But it wasn't like Harvey, where I would go to a bar and and drink with this rabbit or anything like that, you know. And because everything I do is never preconceived in a sense. So when this all happened, with the Mukfa thing all happened, it just happened because I felt I needed to do it for the work, not for me. And I guess there's always this kind of a separation between that. Like, I'm a real Gemini, and I lead my life very, it's not in a fantasy world, you know. I'm always going to the supermarket and looking to see which bottle of olives is cheaper than the other bottle of olives, and those are the things that concern me in the real world. But then when I go into my own world, then I start thinking about making those things. But they're not friends necessarily. They're actors in that world.
So when you sat down in the afternoon after school and made cartoons and drawing those out, were those new characters each time?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I can't remember. I just would draw them. It was too long ago for me to really remember, okay? All I know is and they didn't always have to be like characters. It could just been a drawing of, say, a baseball player, or maybe the next day it could have been my mother and her curlers or something like that, you know. So there was nothing really consistent in that sense. I just wanted to draw. That was probably more important than making things up. I never thought it mattered, and I copied a lot. There was one artist, Arthur Schick, who did the political cartoons for the New York Post, and they were marvelous drawings. And my father would come home every night at 7 o'clock, and that's why all my paintings say 7 o'clock. And I'd grab the newspaper out of his hand, and I would look at the cartoon of that day, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be great, because he always had wonderful drawings of Goebbels and Goering and Hitler and Tojo, because it's during the war, and there were just elaborate medals on them, and I loved that. So I did a lot of that too at the kitchen table.
So you had a proverbial playground just because of the politics,
right?
To just spin off on that. And
right.
You mentioned that the character with the curlers and the high fashion wooden silhouette here is kind of a sort of your mother, or?
Well, sort of my mother. Yeah, my mother was kind of short, and she always wore a big coat, so it made her look shorter. You know, she had a big Persian linen coat, and the curlers she would never wear outside. But I have a wonderful photograph of her sitting in the kitchen. She had her rubber gloves on, she had her house coat on, and she had her hair in curlers. And that was at that time I wanted to be very realistic, show people the way they really are. So I took that shot of her, and she hated it.
Sort of the opposite of June Cleaver, Beaver, who was always in the shirt-waist dress and the pearls and the high heels, even though she was taking a pot roast out of that.
Right, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that happened later, of course. And I wasn't that familiar with it, but Erica, my daughter, used to watch. Leave It to Beaver, is that it? Yeah, okay.
You were a student of Joseph Albers at Yale University. Do you feel like his color theories influenced your work at all, or do you feel like you moved in a different direction on your own?
Well, he was very important to me. He was most significant to me as my being an artist. He had a terrific eye, and it's really not theory. What he did was he thought of problems or exercises which would help you train how to look. So it really would be more similar to, say, doing push-ups, doing sit-ups, doing track, anything an athlete might do to sort of help them doing their athletic thing, you know, and that's what it was, and I think he really taught me how to see. You know, he made it so that you had to look at things and say, now you want these colors to appear in such a certain way, and that was terrific. Plus the fact is that he told me when he interviewed me to get into Yale, he said, you have a nice color sense, which I didn't even know what that meant. But that I was smart enough to know, like, it was like the Pope telling me that I was a good Catholic.
So, because based on your portfolio, or?
Yeah, I went up, I brought some paintings and some drawings and things like that.
So he never saw any of your cartoons?
Oh no, I would never show him my cartoon. I was terrified of him, literally terrified. If he didn't like anything, it would really crush me. And I did paintings which were really innocuous for me. I was just trying to learn. That was the most important thing, to be there. And I sort of put down my creative juices, the things I like to do. And I used to make drawings at night. And I made 4 very large, complicated drawings of soldiers. And I would never show. I was terrified. If he disliked them, that would be the end of me. But I needed this double life. I'd make paintings which he could destroy, rightly so, because I wasn't as connected. But when I made the drawings, if he destroyed those, I would destroy me. And I was fortunate. I was egomaniac in a way. I wrote a letter to the Museum of Modern Art, and I said, I have 4 drawings I think you should see. And I wrote it in pencil, you know, I mean, I didn't even have a typewriter. And they wrote, amazingly enough, they wrote back to me and said, bring them down. And I brought them down, and they bought one.
Did Albers know about this?
No, I never told him that. He would have been angry because he wasn't in the collection of museum at that time. And it was very nice because I saw Mr. Lieberman, Bill Lieberman. He was the chief curator of Princeton Drawings. And he looked at them very carefully, and he said, can I keep these for a while? I said, that would be fine. And then he said, why don't you go and come back in about 4 or 5 hours? And he said, walk through the museum, and I did. Then I went out for lunch, and I came back, and I saw the secretary, and she said, oh, Mr. Lieberman decided to keep one of the drawings, and we'd like to buy it. So I said, so she said, how much? And I had the faintest idea, so I charged him $75.
Wow.
I don't know if that was a good price. And I got a lifetime pass to the museum.
Well, the pass alone is...
The pass alone, right. And I have a very good friend who was also, at about that time, got a lifetime pass. And he, one day later, he showed it to the guard at the gate. And the guard said, this is expired. So he said, you mean I'm dead? That's never happened to me. But Albers never saw those drawings, no.
So it's like you're leading a double life. Like
Yeah.
You went into the museum, with the fedora and the dark coat and casting out drawings. And I mean, but, didn't you want to click your heels or tell somebody?
Well, I told my friends. I told, and of course that's always for artists. That's always a problem because, well, why the hell did he get one?
Yeah.
Not me. But I was delighted. I was delighted. I told a lot of my friends who were not artists, and they were obviously very supportive. I don't think they've ever shown that drawing. I don't even know where it is right these days. But I'm delighted with it.
Maybe it's part of his private collection.
Lieberman, yeah.
So if, you're leading sort of this double life, was that frustrating at all, or was it kind of a safe haven to go home and go into your own world, and
Right.
which became Mukfa? Was that kind of a place you could retreat and relax, or was it a catharsis?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Was it a catharsis for
Yeah, well,
life?
school was tough. It was really tough, and it took me a long time to get to understand. I had no understanding of visual formulation, and that's all Albers was really about. He never really wanted to deal with content. He always believed that content was essential, but he never felt he could teach content. I mean, that's very personal, but he could teach grammar or visual formulation, or how you put things together, how you make sentences and paragraphs in painting, And I understood that. And so I was a little older. I had been in the Army already, and then I realized this was a great opportunity for me to be at Yale and study with him. I thought it was a gift, a tremendous gift, and I wasn't going to ruin it in any way. And I was willing to do anything I had to do to survive Yale. And I really put the mug for all those kinds of things really way, way, way in the back burner. And actually, they didn't really exist that much at that time. This would be I was there 55 to 59. And this is really before pop art came along. And I must say, the whole idea that pop art came along was an inspiration to me. It made me realize I could do what I sort of liked to do when I was a kid and all that. And what happened is, I got involved with serious art. So my gods in those days were de Kooning and Pollock and all those action painters. And I thought that's what painting was about. And that's what I wanted to do. And I would drip painting. I would be bending on my hands and knees, dripping painting on the floor. And Albers was a very small man and had very short little shoes. Not short, he was short, but he had little shoes, and they were gray, and they were very nicely manufactured. And he had a gray suit. He always wore the same gray suit. In fact, for the man who was very interested in color, everything he wore was colorless.
But very European and stuff.
Very European. And I was doing that. Everybody would start doing these things when he'd leave the building. He used to leave the building. His wife would come by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and pick him up. And you know that because often he'd have somebody help him carry something to the car, which was a black Chevrolet. It was a very simple car. And Ani would sit there at the steering. I don't think he drove. Anyway, so as soon as we knew he left the building, everybody came out and started doing the things I really wanted to do, okay? It's sort of like in the movies where, all the puppets come alive and everything in the kids' room, And so would leave, and then one day I guess, and then so you sort of knew that he leaves about 4 o'clock. So about 5 o'clock I was on my hands and knees and dripping and doing all kinds of things and having a wonderful time being Jackson Pollock, what have you. And then I was on the floor, and then I'd look up and I see these shoes, and I go up and I see this great pants and the jacket, and I see Albert, and he'd look at me and he'd say, "Ah, boy," because he never called us by our real name, because I don't think he ever knew it. He just knew our gender. So he'd say, "Ah, boy, what are you doing?" And I looked up and said, "Painting." He said, "Stupid." Turned around and walked away. And those are the kinds of experiences I had with him and others, my friends. So he was terrifying. But a darling man, but terrifying nonetheless. He knew what he wanted you to do. He wanted you to be sensible. His big thing was say what you mean.
Well, you belong to a prestigious league of former sign painters that made good. I mean, James Whistler, worked for the Geodesic Society doing maps, and Thomas Hart Benton did sign making, during the war when he went off. So, so you did your stint, with the Army. You've gone through college, and now you've arrived at a professorship. And so, did MUCFA begin there at Indiana, or did it actually start before there?
Before Indiana, I was teaching at the Art Institute in Chicago, and I was teaching Albert's color class, which was wonderful. But I didn't want to teach that forever because it was very restricting, and it was really hard because at Art Institute they gave me 180 students the first year, 6 sections of 30 people, and then looking at the same 3 colors looking like 4, then go to the next desk, 3 colors looking like 4. And it was really hard, so I was really hoping to get out of that. I applied for Fulbright, and I got it, and went to Rome because of La Dolce Vita. Don't ask me why, but it looked like the best place to go. Marcello Mastroianni and Anita Ekberg. And I did some kind of fake proposal for the Fulbright people. I got the Fulbright, and then I started doing some etchings. I met a guy at a party or something, an Italian guy who was approximately my age, a little younger, and he couldn't speak English, and nor could I speak Italian. And he said, "I can print your etchings for you." And so I had never etched before. I love the etchings of Chagall, the early etchings, Mon Liebman, the Dead Souls, they're beautiful. And I loved Enser's etchings, James Enser, Seven Deadly Sins and things like that. And I thought, gee, that'd be a great chance to do that. So I got some zinc, and I got some acid, and I started doing some etchings. And it was really interesting. Then Alberto would come over, and I'd give him the play. I never did, the etchings were only one drawing. I never sort of stopped out and put it into a second state. It was always one state thing. And I really liked it. And I was in Rome, so I couldn't speak Italian very well or at all. I knew words, so if people said Sadie, I knew that was a chair, for instance. Barbara, my wife, was better, and she had a shop in kilos and in lira, so she was learning a little bit more, but I didn't have to do that. And I really felt alienated from America. I never realized. I loved Europe. Europe was magnificent. There was no question about that. I didn't want to go home. But on the other hand, I realized how important America was to me. And knowing what you'd hear on the radio, in Italy, they speak Italian. There were no subtitles. And the movies, there was one American movie in Rome. It was hard to get to, but we went there occasionally. Newspapers, all the signs in the streets, and things like that. So it was a wonderful thing because it drew me back to the kitchen table. The etchings are this big. I'd sit at a little card table, and I would work on them, and it just worked beautifully for me. And that's when MUCFA really started coming to the fore, because that's when I did the map, and that's what I said. Well, once you have the map, and I liked the map, and then I said, well, gee, why don't I have some people? And then I made some people, and that's when all my imaginary friends really came, okay? And at the end of the year, we invited a lot of people, well, all the people we knew in Rome, which were about 10. But, and I had 2 very large paintings, which I worked very hard on. And I set them out, and then I just said, well, I'll just put the etchings out on this card table. There were about 25 of them at that time. And I'd walk around, serving drinks, Chianti, whatever. It's the cheapest one I could find. And I'd walk into my studio, and there were these people sitting around this card table, and they were just enjoying the etchings. They were looking at them, they were giggling, and there was, hey, look at this kind of thing. And I looked at my 2 paintings, and nobody was looking at my 2 paintings. And, oh, wait a second, I worked hard on those paintings. I didn't do anything on the edge. I just had a good time. And that taught me a lot. It taught me a big lesson. And then I knew that that's where I wanted to go. And then because I wanted to be a painter, I didn't want to be just a graphic designer or an etcher. When I went back to Chicago the next year to teach at the Institute, I tried to paint those etchings, and I just couldn't. It was just too difficult. I didn't know how to bridge the gap, and so it took a long time.
So you never did hand coloring or anything like that for your etchings?
No, I never did that. I see. No, I never thought about that. And that would be a substitute for a painting. Is that what you're saying? No, I never thought
Well,
about
that's a little bit different process, but if you wanted, I mean, outside of having different plates to make different colors,
Right.
worrying about registration,
Right.
there was one option.
I think it's because I was trained as a painter. I always thought of myself as a painter. I do all these things now that are sort of, I guess they're constructions or semi-sculptors, but I never think of myself as anything other than a painter. That's what I always wanted to do once I started. Okay, I have to tell you a quick story if I can. I graduated high school, and my teachers were extremely supportive of me. And I lived in New York City, and they encouraged me to take my drawings around. And I took my drawings around to